social. This week, we're not on Blab, we're on Google Hangouts. And I'm really happy to have my guest, Kathy Cruz. She has been a loyal, mindful social participant in the past. We've done a Twitter chat, but I really love to get people on video because we get so much more in depth. And she's an amazing person. She's an animal rights activist. She's an animal lover. She is a social sales, can I say guru? That seems like such an awful word, but she knows her stuff. So Kathy, why don't you give people a little background on you, just, what you do and how you kind of got into the whole sales industry. While I put my dogs on mute.
They're being mindful as well, your doggies. I came from the automotive industry. I managed car dealerships my entire life. My grandfather was a dealer in the 50s and 60s in downtown Los Angeles, so it was in my blood. In 2008, I got into, I had a consulting business cruise control that was mainly operational, but it shifted into social media and all of the things, online reputation and blogging and all of that. About 2009 or so, I started my blog. And so I do social media strategies, social selling workshops. I speak a lot of places, specifically in the automotive retail niche. I work with auto manufacturers on training programs to kind of help dealers figure out, what's good to do on social and how to build their online reputation. I have other clients that are non-automotive, but I'm mostly in the automotive niche just because I feel at home in the showroom.
Yeah. It's good to be with your peeps, and stay focused.
It is.
So I'm just going to cut right to the chase that there's a lot of really nasty brand perception about car sales folks out there. And, when we're talking about mindfulness and mindfulness together with social sales and car sales, to some that may be an oxymoron, but I don't necessarily believe that to be true. And I'm sure that you don't. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Let me say first that, the stereotype didn't get there just, magically. It's a stereotype because it's true. And there are still, believe it or not, there are still a lot of people that behave in the old ways, like if you want to go in the 80s or something and see what the business was like then and treating customers. I think the average time to buy a car these days is about 6 hours or so. That's not from a study. That's just from my experience. And there's many components that come to that realization. But yes, there are. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of old ways of thinking out there, and I get it. Change is hard. I get it. But the customer has changed, and the tolerance level there. You're not in charge anymore necessarily. The dealership needs to do some outreach of some sort, and there's a lot that I've worked for and ones that I've managed that we have done that just because it feels right. But in many cases, that's not true. So, but on the other hand, I do see a lot of salespeople, for instance, that come up to me when I speak at conferences or that just reach out to me and ask questions, that are kind of taking their own destiny in their own charge and creating their brand online. And that's where the social sales aspect comes from.
Mm-hmm.
They ache for the knowledge around it. I'm working hard on creating, I want to do an online course for it. As online courses are very tough to, it's not the creating part of it. It's actually getting it to the learning management system and stuff. But nonetheless, it's on my list of my short list of things that I want to accomplish in 2016. So yeah, I think that as much as dealers and auto manufacturers too, they're not immune to this information. They know what goes on. There is because dealerships are franchises, they're privately owned typically. Well, they could be privately owned by a public company. The manufacturers have, certain things they can do, and then certain things they can't. So so I think it's the key to it is training and getting them to understand that not just social sales is going to get you more leads, but also Facebook and any social media, online reputation management, the Facebook ads, all of those things are going to be able to get you where you really want to go with your business goals. They just have to see how to get there.
Mm-hmm. How much does active listening play a role now in sales? And I'm not sure that's even a change, because active listening has always been a part of a good sales program.
Yeah. There's a couple of dealership specific sales trainers that have these processes, and it's always about your process. And I agree, in sales, you need to have a process, especially when it's for a group of salespeople. However, there are some that are still kind of preaching those old ways of control your customer, and I don't even know what to say to that. But truly, active listening, whether it's them sitting across from you, and this is for any business really, if you're wherever you are, if you have a bricks and mortar, you're listening to the customer in person, and then also listening to what they're doing online. There's so much valuable data and information to really know how to give you kind of direction on what your customers are looking for and how you can answer their questions and things.
Yeah, I think, the customer comes so much better informed to the showroom floor now that, they probably have a really good idea of what features they're looking for, what they like in that particular auto, and what they expect the price point to be. I've had some really good experiences, but I have to say, when I go on a car lot, I identify who the salesperson is that is actually going to play with me, because I want to have a conversation. I want to be engaged. I don't want somebody to come up and say, what can I get you? It's got to be that car over there. You've got to have that. There's always, and it doesn't matter if it's auto sales or, what kind of sales it is.
Exactly.
But, I bought my truck from a guy who really did listen. He wanted to know what we were going to use it for, what our daily processes were. He asked a lot of really great questions, and he actually listened to the answers instead of, going through the rote. And, it excited me so much. I wrote a blog post about it, because it's rare to find somebody, and you find that connection and that personal connection. Now I'm looking for another car. I'm going to go back to that same guy, even though he's an hour drive away from where I am.
Yes.
And that's something that I think sales folks need to understand, that it's not just this one sale that matters.
Yeah, it's one of my idols is Carl Sewell. Wrote a book called Customers for Life years ago, and he calls it the $517,000 customer. So in other words, in the life of a customer, I think he says 12 cars plus service is $517,000. So you need to treat every customer you have like they're a $517,000 customer. And that was a number from I think the 80s when that book was written. So I don't even know what it would be now. It's got to be double, right? So yeah, and to your point about when they come in, customers come in and this is a real stat. It used to be that customers would even with the internet, they would find out some information, but they would look to the dealership and the salesperson in particular for information, trusted kind of information, because why not? They're the ones that know more about the product. But because the distrust and the credibility has been kind of blown through, the internet has answered that, and now the information is out there. And so the stats used to be that a typical new car franchise customer would visit 6 to 7 dealerships when they were shopping. Wow. Now it's at 1.3.
Wow.
So if you think about it, I think what's happened is they're probably still visiting 6 to 7, but they're doing it online, and dealers don't know, right? And so you really have a very small window to capture the attention and differentiate yourself from the competitor. And as a salesperson, you're standing on the lot, very typical thing that happens is that person that was online gathering information found someone they could trust or knew someone they could trust and have that name already. And so when they walk on the lot, they just go up and say, hey, I want to talk to, Peggy Smith,
Mm.
which turns the other salespeople into greeters. So yeah, we don't, yeah. So there's so many stumbling blocks to get to the point where your salespeople could, I carry the torch for it, and there's a few other people that do, whether it's involving salespeople in the company's marketing, whether it's content creation, allowing them and giving them guidance on how to actually build their personal brand online. I've got a client that has his own page through this tool. It's a dealer-specific online ratings tool. And they give the salespeople, as part of the package, they give the salespeople their own personal page. And so they can add, the salesperson can ask the customer for a review. And this guy rocks at it, man. He's got 5 stars and they are all real. I think he's got 91 reviews. And so whenever he talks to anybody on the phone or he meets people or whatever, hey, go look at this page. And people go, oh, wow. That right there is enough to make you want to say, wow, I could trust this guy, right?
Right, right. And so is this really an issue with the individual salespeople, or is it an issue that really needs to be top down from the dealership?
It's
Because,
both.
Yeah.
It's both. And I wish I could get those that are believers together, because many times I'll see like salespeople and anyone that's on the front line selling, they're frustrated because their boss just doesn't get it. I have a
Mhm.
friend that's a sales manager that got fired because his boss walked in and said, I don't need you to be any kind of internet superstar. I just want you to close deals. And he
Yeah.
fired him from it. And he'd worked there for 2 years and built their sales up 3 times.
Mhm.
Duh.
And they probably regret his leaving.
I hope so. I hope they do.
Me
So,
too.
so there's the bosses that don't get it, but the salespeople that do. And then there's the bosses that do get it. And the salespeople are like, they're not into it. And that is going to be something I think that would, that 80-20 rule that always works. It's always the 20% of your staff is going to really, really get it. And then what you do with that other 80%, whether it's training and some are just never gonna, the curve is always going to be that there won't be, not everybody. I've met salespeople that do not have cell phones.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
That's really pretty amazing. I think it's interesting to me, when you talk to salespeople, there's different mentalities. There's the ones that are there because they're really pushed maybe by the dealership to make the sale, make the sale, make the sale. And it's all about getting those numbers across the line. And then there's the salespeople who are really there as service. And they have a very service mindset, and they tend to really put the customer first ahead of the sale.
Yeah.
Which are you seeing, and this is putting you on the spot a little, which are you seeing being more effective with long-term sales and getting to those $500,000 customers?
Oh, definitely the latter. Definitely I have a friend named Joe Webb. He's a sales trainer, automotive sales trainer, and he's worked in the business. So he kind of comes with that credibility, and he's lived it. He's had to, make his living off selling cars, but he's a great sales trainer. He says that salespeople are teachers now. And I think whatever that entails, whether it's, just using your own personal Facebook page so that people know that you do sell cars, and your own network or LinkedIn even, let them know, that you do some way sell cars, what you do for a living, because people make choices, based on
Sure.
like people they know. And all the way, you could that's something minimal that you could do, but then all the way up to creating content on your own personal blog. There's a few salespeople out there that I know that have their own personal blog that they use to communicate good information and teach the customer. Because these are not, I was thinking about this morning, these are milestones when people buy vehicles. Any, big purchase like that is a milestone in someone's life. And, I'm sure you can remember every car you bought, right?
Yeah.
So can I. Even
Absolutely.
I'm in the business and I can remember, the cars I buy. So you get that one chance to make a great impression. And I think that in the day-to-day operation, and this is of any business, you get, kind of numb to the fact that the customer, this is something that is important to them.
Mm-hmm.
And even in B2B, because, there's a lot riding on a purchase decision in B2B. So, take it and say, well, let me walk in the customer's shoes for a bit and understand that this is something important to them and a milestone, and let me help them do that. And I think that's really the thing that's going to keep that long-term connection.
Mm-hmm. And that really speaks to the mindful approach of it too, is going out more to that longer term goal, that you're really creating relationships, and you're really taking that moment to think about what that person wants, and how you can help them, and also really understanding what their situation is. A lot of times you'll see people on the lot, and it's a mom and she's got her two kids, and how do you manage that? There's so many different ways to handle that. And it's the way you handle that situation and that person that really makes a difference in whether you're going to get the sale or not, or they're going to go on to another lot.
Yeah. And girl, I have to say, if you're practicing mindfulness, whatever that means to you, I think that that's a really great way to be able to have empathy and compassion and treat them with kindness, instead of, in some cases, it's an adversarial situation.
Yes.
Even though it's not really, they turn it into it.
Mm-hmm.
And those days need to kind of go by the way of the dodo.
Yeah. And again, I don't feel that that's entirely the salesperson's fault. It's
Totally.
that manager who's firing anybody who takes a moment to think.
That's right.
I doubt very highly. I know there's a lot of companies in Silicon Valley where, they have a meditation room. I don't think that's going to happen in car dealerships very soon.
No.
But there is a way to do that, because, there is a lot of downtime when you're in the auto business.
Yes.
So, let's talk a little bit about how a salesperson might bring mindfulness into their life and their business, and how that could maybe be beneficial to them.
You got to be diligent, because I can tell you the style of management, the typical style, and I don't mean to generalize, but because there are some really great managers out there, but the typical style that's out there is very police-like, and I don't care what you did yesterday. What did you do for me today? And that's, to me, not in any way going to help someone. I've never been that type of manager. I've always been a coaching type manager, and I give people leeway and help them. And sometimes it's enough rope to hang themselves, but
That's okay.
Give them the opportunity to find their way and guide them. And of course that takes longer, right? It takes longer, and it takes more know-how and expertise, but it's well worth it. So if you've got a boss that's like that, boy, you've got to be diligent. You got to be diligent about your practice, and whether it's, I know a guy that actually, it's a few years ago, he worked for a boss that just didn't get it. And so he would go out in his car at lunchtime, and he would make a video of something that was on his mind. And he would just, sit, whether you meditate, if you don't meditate, that's cool, but meditation can take all types of, what it looks like. It doesn't have to be sitting, quietly, in lotus position, right? It can be a walk. You can meditate and walk. It's about just kind of moving away from your senses so that your mind can rest. And whatever that means, right? So yeah, if you have a boss that's not signed up for what you want to do, I think you have to be extra diligent about it. I do. And in the end, it's going to help you be a better person, and that'll make you be a better salesperson.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, you can be much more grounded by being able to just take that moment. sure, maybe you don't have the opportunity to sit and meditate, but there's a lot of times that, say you're the one that's on the outside lot and there's nobody looking at cars right now.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do to just stop and take a breath
Yes.
and think,
Yeah.
or just not think.
Or not think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
And
consume content. That's, maybe meditation is a jump for some people, and depending on where you work and what you do, the logistics of it. But yes, there is a lot of downtime, and because of that, you've got the opportunity to create content. And when I say create content, or consume content too, that was where my thought was going. If you consume content, then you're going to be inspired some way, right? It will lead you. One will lead you to another, to another, to another, and pretty soon you're going to have an idea about something that you want to express, and that might be in the form of just a Facebook post, or if you've got a blog, or even if you just want to, be part of a conversation somewhere like what we're doing now, right? And and so don't let the downtime get you, because that it will that voice will start talking to you, and it's just not. It'll say, "Oh, isolate, isolate, isolate," and you'll believe it, and then the next thing you know, you haven't sold anything.
yeah, stress is such a huge issue, and in any kind of sales environment, stress is a really huge issue, and dealing with that stress, there's so many different ways to do it. Sometimes it's just seeing that, okay, that's one of my demons right there, that I'm not going to have any sales today. And, I know it's going to be a horrible day. And as soon as you start seeing yourself go down that track, you can stop that.
Yes.
You can say, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a breath. I'm not going to go there. And not so much forcefully as in redirecting your mind to something else, or just stopping thinking for one darn second.
Yeah, I've had a lot of trauma in my life over the years, and it's all good. It's not fun during going through it, but it turns you into my life is much different now, and I have little practices that I do when I get up in the morning or when I go to bed that are just about an intention and staying on that road of positivity, and witnessing my thoughts. Are they real? Because most of the time they're not.
Byron Katie.
Yeah, Byron Katie. I'm a big devotee of her. I love her. So
I am too.
It's all just a story, right? All of it, all of it. So, I'll take, like, at night, I have a little journal, and I'll write 5 things that I was thankful for that day. And I'll just do that every night. And it actually lets you go to sleep with something that your subconscious in gratitude. And in the morning, it just kind of magically makes the morning easier. And like I say, it's always a practice. Everything's a practice, and what works for you. And it's a constant, for me, it's a constant investigation of what's really working for me. Like, I practice yoga a lot, as you know. And I just got tired of the studios I was going to. And I'm like, I'm going to just put the brakes on it for a minute. And so I started looking for a new studio, and where I live, it's tough to find. I've been practicing for a long time, 20 years or so, and it's very tough to find quality. So I'm just looking for quality. I think I found one. So it's nearer my house, so that's good. But it's all of that, and none of that would have happened if I wouldn't have just been observing, really witnessing and observing and investigating, like, what's good for me right now, and what can I do to better myself, and then hopefully that will help me be a better person outwardly, and help serve in some way.
Yeah. Well, they call it practice for a reason, and it's not just, mindfulness or yoga practice. I do Tai Chi. It's not just Tai Chi practice. It's practicing your life, and, really going in the direction that you want your life to go. And it's not going to be perfect every day. It's not going to work every single time. But I've found over the years that when you bring yourself back to center and say, okay, I'm not going to go chase that particular dark cloud. I'm going to stay right here. And just taking a moment to appreciate, like you said, gratitude is a huge one. What am I thankful for right now? Going through those things in your mind can really remind you how great your life is. And that changes your attitude when someone approaches you. When
Yes.
the next person walks in the door, it's, to me, I kind of explain it in that retail kind of mode where, you're kind of window shopping and you walk into a store and the girl is on her cell phone, or they don't look up and greet you at all, or they kind of greet you with a, what do you want here? I'm having a bad day. That affects that person's response to you. And so, finding a way to say, okay, that, someone's in the store, I'm going to redo my face, I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to greet them and see what happens. Those kind of things make a big difference too. It's about attitude, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. And as a manager, that's like what you always want to have. And I think what salespeople, I don't know how to put this exactly, but I think that you're playing the part. It's not that you're being inauthentic, but you have a duty to play the part as Peggy Smith, salesperson. And that doesn't mean Peggy Smith, the private person that had a bad day this morning or whatever. And I go back to the years and years ago. I used to work at a dealership in Glendale, California. And the service manager, let me tell you, one of the hardest jobs in the world is being a service manager, especially at that time at a Ford dealership, because it was nonstop crazy. And this guy, and it was a huge service department, huge. And this guy, and his name was Ray, and we used to have these employee meetings, and we would get lunch for everybody. And he would, I don't remember what the exact situation came up as, but I think he was leading it that day. And he said, what I do before I get to work, because he was driving like an hour to work at that time, said, I put all of my troubles at the threshold before I walk in my office. I put it all outside, and I go in my office and I do what I got to do. And I do it with passion, and I love customers, and even with all of the things that he was getting in his face all the time. And then he would do the same thing when he would go home. He'd say, I'm going to take everything that happened today at work, and I'm going to leave it at the threshold, and I'm going to walk inside. I'm going to be this person. And I think that's a really great way to be mindful of it'll wake you up to like how you're behaving.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to step back and look in the mirror and at how you're behaving. But setting those intentions, I think it's very important to set those intentions when you're going to do something, not just at the beginning of the day, but, maybe you're going into a meeting. I'm going to set the intentions on what I expect to happen, and kind of visualizing, at the end, we're all going to be smiling and happy. Not that there's going to be even if there is going to be a confrontation, you can still put a different twist on it by expecting that it's going to have a positive outcome. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes. Once is good.
I tell you, my friend is the #1 BMW salesperson in the nation, and she has been for a very long time. And she works at Beverly Hills BMW, where I used to work. And she is laser focused on the customer. She doesn't take what we call ups, which are just walk-ins. She has every bit of information from every customer she's ever sold to. She sells to a lot of celebrities. And she has 2 assistants, and she is laser focused on what they need, what they want. She thinks ahead of what they might want. She knows when their lease is coming up. She calls them, and she's just, I don't want to call her a machine because she's human, but she's amazing to watch. And I've always thought, like, when I worked there, actually, I would be like, to the other salespeople, like, why don't you just look at what Nada's doing, because she's rocking it, right? She sells 70 BMWs herself per month, which is more than some dealerships, whole dealerships sell in a month. So she's got it right. Now her approach is, she likes to nag when, especially if there's something going on with her paycheck, things like that, as we all would, and she does express herself in a very healthy way. But it's never to the customer. It's never in front of the customer. It's never around. And like I say, she's just, she's got it. It's not something you could teach what she has, but it's something you could emulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Organization is a beautiful thing that I don't have very much of. I always admire it when I see it in other people. My partner's in real estate, and I'm always amazed how she can just pull these things together and juggle all those balls at once. And
Yeah.
that's an amazing talent.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kathy, it's always really great to chat with you. And I know that you have a lot of social presences. Why don't you let people know how to find you?
I'm on Facebook at Kathy Cruz, KathiKruse. That's my personal. I have a business page too, Cruise Control Inc. And then my Twitter handle is Kathy Cruz, and I'm on LinkedIn, but I think I'm on LinkedIn as Cruise Control way back when I created that. I'm on Instagram. I'm on, you name it, I'm on it. My website is cruisecontrolinc.com. My last name is Kruse. Yeah, that's pretty much everywhere I am. Everywhere,
You're on
anywhere.
Google Plus once in a while.
Google Plus, I do post to there that still. I'm not sure where it's going or what it's doing, but I think, I wrote a blog post about this concept last week about quality over quantity and vanity metrics, and like people that have spent money buying fans or buying likes, and I think we're moving towards more quality connections. At least I feel that. I purged my Facebook friends. Took me about 8 hours over 4 days, but I got rid of about 700 people that I was absolutely shocked to see some of the things they were posting on their page. I'm like, how did I get to be friends with this person?
I do not know you anymore.
Oh my. So I think it's a constant, and I think we've had this opportunity with social to be so spread out, and that's still there. But we've all seen that especially if you're selling things, which, most all of us are, you want to target or be connected to those people that are most likely going to be interested in what you sell or interested in what you have to say. And not everybody is for everyone. So I think this is where the movement is going, is to more of a quality connection.
I absolutely agree with that. I think people are minimizing the number of networks that they're participating in, as well as the number of followers. And, it's one of those things that people don't think about as much as they should. But, we look at the associations too.
Yes.
I mean, when I go to look at a profile to decide if I'm going to follow them, I go to look to see who they follow. And if they're following a bunch of people that, are spammers or porn queens, that's probably not somebody I want to be associated with. Not that I got anything wrong with that. But, it really, associations, quality of content is much more important than it used to be. And we can't emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was just listening to John Loomer's podcast this morning about this new Facebook ad. I don't think it's rolled out yet to general people, but where you can, when you're creating a custom audience, website custom audience, you can target it by the time on site. And, those that, that jump over to my blog post and read it, but they only spend, a few seconds or whatever, that isn't somebody I need to target, right? I'd rather target someone that spent a little more time on my site. So I think that also speaks to this idea of creating quality.
I think so too. The power of that pixel is getting stronger and stronger all the time. So, let people know, if you don't have the Facebook pixel on your page, put it on there now, because you're going to want it later. Yeah. And besides, they're gathering a lot of data about everybody who visits your website.
That's right.
So, but that is very powerful. And now they've added a new feature too, that is people who have engaged on your Facebook page. So if they're not engaging on your Facebook page, then you can decide not to target them in the ad. That's pretty cool too.
That's cool.
We want the
Very
engagement.
cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kathy.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it, and especially with all the blab back and forth. And we've been trying to get this show together for a while, so I'm really, really thrilled that I got to have you on the show.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Thanks, girl. It was great, really.
Thank you.